I have the state appearing by District Attorney Sue Opper, Deputy District Attorney Leslie Basie, Assistant District Attorney Zach Wichow, and I have the defendant Darrell Brooks appearing in person. So my understanding is that following what Mr. Brooks described happening at the initial appearance, there was a woman that one of the deputies spoke with and warned her. It's my understanding that woman may have been in the gallery on Monday and was warned about behavior then. I have issued an order. She is not allowed back in these proceedings because of that. I believe we know her identity, and I can tell you with certainty it is not our juror. So I don't think it's necessary to bring that juror out, given that record, but I will certainly do that if the state feels, or Mr. Brooks, that that's important for their understanding or confirmation at this point.
In looking at my notes, it's unclear to me if he was present at any time in day 2 of jury selection. I know he was in day 1. So his claim that he was unable to see the juror at the time, obviously if it's a juror from day 1, he was able to see her because he was in court with her. So that would also be something, I guess if we could establish that she was part of the first 41, then I think the record is clear that the defendant was in court when the first 41 were brought out, and therefore he could have objected at that time.
I will get confirmation of the number, and we'll go from there as well. Any requests as relates to that, Mr. Brooks?
Before I get to that whole issue, Your Honor, if I may, I would like to state for the record, and would like the record to reflect that I personally don't identify by that name. I am here as a third-party intervener in that matter, appearing as an authorized representative for my client. I accept for value, in return for value, all the charging instruments in this matter and make my exemption available for discharge of all obligations and charges connected with this case. I do not dispute any of the facts in the charging instruments.
Your statements are noted for the record, sir. All right, as to the issue of the juror?
As far as the issue of the juror, I was maybe briefly present when the first wave of jurors were brought in. I didn't recall really being in here long enough to really get a look at the jurors coming in because I was removed at that time. Actually, either they were coming in or shortly after they were brought in, I was removed. I definitely was not present for the second and third wave. I was in the other courtroom, so it would be, I can't see the jurors from the other courtroom on the monitor, so it wouldn't possibly be that I would have seen the juror that I was referring to yesterday.
Understanding that that may very well be true, my recollection is you were removed pretty quickly due to an interruption early on, but I am advising you that I was able to confirm with others, including law enforcement, that the juror that you suspected was the woman who made an inappropriate gesture toward you at the initial appearance. They are not the same individuals. I've been able to confirm that. I know the identity of the woman who did what you said, and it is not this juror.
Is there any way that I can be sure of that?
Do you want to have juror, I think it might be 41, I don't want to guess, but I can bring that juror out when the jurors get here and we can have her under oath testify that she was not at your initial appearance or any of the proceedings in this case. I'm able to do that.
That would be helpful, Your Honor.
I will question her about that, so there's a very clear record that your concern and whether one of the jurors on this panel was at your initial appearance and made an inappropriate gesture can be put to bed once and for all, so that you're satisfied they are two different people. Go ahead, she can just sit in one of the spots in the jury box. All right. Good morning. You can have a seat. You are not in trouble. We just have had an issue come up, and we wanted to make sure we all had accurate information. At any point in time, did you attend any of the proceedings in this matter regarding Mr. Brooks?
No.
Were you ever at the initial appearance for Mr. Brooks?
No.
All right. State have any follow-up based on that?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks, any follow-up based on what I've asked this witness, or what I've asked this juror, sorry.
No.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Are they going?
No.
Mr. Brooks, we brought out juror number 41. Was that the same juror that you initially suspected was someone who was at your initial appearance?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And again, she denied. She said she told us she wasn't there, and I trust that satisfies your inquiry into this issue.
I'm still a little leery, but
Okay.
I say that I'm not interrupting, am I?
Go ahead.
I say that because I don't forget faces. I don't.
All right, I understand what you're saying, but the record is made clear, and I'll make a finding that juror number 41 was not at your initial appearance and is not the person who made an inappropriate gesture to you either at or following that hearing.
From yesterday's testimony, we'd like to move into evidence Exhibit 1, which was the map, Exhibit 3, which was the video played during Corey Runkle's testimony, and Exhibit 5, which is the photograph of Erika Patterson. They were all testified to yesterday.
Any objection? Mr. Brooks?
Yes, Your Honor. I guess it would be to the terms of relevancy. There's been no testimony from Ms. Patterson, so I'm just curious to know the relevancy of that being made evidence at this point in time, because from what was said yesterday was that she would be testifying at some point. Would it not be better to have that admitted then if she decides to testify instead of right now when we're not even sure if she is going to testify?
Your objections are noted for the record. There was a proper foundation laid regarding each one of these exhibits. They also are relevant to the issues within this trial, and I'll admit exhibits 1, 3, and 5, and also advise the jury when they come back into court this morning.
Your Honor, I'm not interrupting, am I?
Hold on, I'm not to you yet. If there are any issues, any other issues from the state.
It was my understanding that Mr. Brooks did receive the medical attention that he was seeking over the lunch hour. So I just wanted that on the record. And then finally, Your Honor, just a reminder to Mr. Brooks as to the other acts evidence. In line with his questioning of Corey Runkle yesterday, Erika Patterson will be testifying here this morning. The court issued a ruling as to the other acts evidence. The state strictly abided by that. Mr. Brooks came very close several times to opening the door to that testimony. We treaded very lightly on purpose to be respectful of the court's ruling, but the court warned him twice. Mr. Witschow even personally went over and warned Mr. Brooks during Ms. Runkle's testimony. And before we start another round of challenges potentially during Ms. Patterson's testimony, we just wanted to make a record of that so that Mr. Brooks knows if he opens the door to that other act's testimony, it will come in.
And I appreciate the state raising that as well. Mr. Brooks, on the issue of medical attention, did you see the jail nurse or other medical personnel during the lunch hour yesterday?
Yes, I did. I received a cleaning of my cut and a bandage.
All right, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was getting to the other parts of the injuries. They
Go ahead.
viewed the bruises that I have on my arm and legs as well. I don't know what's going to happen behind that, but I was looked at.
All right, thank you. does not appear to me that any of these injuries are interfering in any way with your ability to be here today and assist in your own defense. So that's good.
Yeah, I'm just a little tender, just a little sore. So.
All right, Mr. Brooks, do you understand what the state is referencing as it relates to the other act's evidence?
I do not understand.
The court did not grant the state's request to admit other acts as it relates to your conduct with Erika Patterson prior to November 21 of 2021. So it's very clear what we're talking about. Again, I'm going to give you these filings so that you understand what I prohibited in this trial. And the record should reflect those filings are being provided. Madam Clerk, do you happen to have the document numbers for those? So documents 170 and 161 were provided to Mr. Brooks. You are correct that when the state made the request, I prohibited the state from introducing that evidence. And so you can ask those questions. You're not prohibited, but then you potentially open the door to that information becoming admissible in this case. So I want you to be advised of that.
May I quick, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
I would just like to say that I accept for value in return for value these filings. I do believe that I have a little bit more clarity, if that helps.
Thank you for putting that on the record. Do you have any other issues you want me to address?
Just very, very quick. I still don't understand the nature and cause of the charges against me, Your Honor, and I still would motion for, or tennis motion for the jurisdiction to be proven, the subject matter jurisdiction. And also a motion for finding of fact.
Your requests are all noted for the record, and for the reasons previously stated on this record, I'm not going to answer those requests any further. They've already been denied by the court. All right, anything else, sir?
I'm not interrupting, am I?
No, I'm asking you a question.
Just for the record, Your Honor, I would like the record to reflect, is that a judicial determination that you are making?
Mr. Brooks, the record speaks for itself. I've made my decision. We're moving on. All right. With that, then, state have a witness available to be called.
We do. Would you also just make a record, Your Honor, this morning that Mr. Brooks does appear again in his orange jail uniform, and that he was offered the ability to wear street clothes and declined that offer? Also, he does have appears to have all of his discovery materials at the table with him.
Yes, thank you. I should make a record of that as well. I didn't state at the outset Mr. Brooks is here in person and in custody. He once again has come to the courtroom in jail attire. I presume, Mr. Brooks, but please confirm for me, you were offered the opportunity to change into street clothes?
As I stated on the record yesterday, I'm waiting for the results of the COVID test that I took. So until I get those results back, I would prefer to not wear street clothes at this time.
All right. Can you confirm for me, though, that you were provided an opportunity to change into them if you so chose?
And not to my knowledge.
Sir, I'm providing you with that opportunity right now. If you would like to change into your street clothes, into the suit and tie that you had previously, or any other street clothes, I would give you that opportunity. Did you hear me advise you of that just now?
I might consider it. Maybe I may have more information from the medical staff once we take a break, or maybe I'm anticipating. Well, actually, I anticipated that I would know before we even started court.
I will make a record that Mr. Brooks does have the 3 boxes that have been referenced previously. I see the objection sign. I see the selected statutes that the court provided to him previously, and I see he has a number of papers in front of him. So he looks as if he's prepared to participate meaningfully today.
May I say something real quick for the record, Your Honor?
Sure.
I did bring these boxes up. I have not had the time to go through everything in there. As you can see, it's a lot. That's putting it minimal. A lot. So I have not had the time to go through everything that's in there. I'm winging it, Your Honor.
Deputy Whitting, any new information? Yeah. All right. Well, can you provide that? Well, let me just see.
We'll just do it.
All right. All right, the information that I have on whether there's new information is they don't have the results, but medical will be called again to check on that to see if anything new, any new information is available, but as of right now, there's not. I also was advised that you were offered 3 times to have street closed by Officer Gabor. Just want to make a record of that. All right, then, Mr. Brooks, we don't have apparently new information. I intend to just continue then, okay?
Really quick. To the decision of Your Honor for me to be removed from the proceedings over the last few days, that was used from the Illinois versus Allen, right?
Correct.
I'm not interrupting, am I?
No, go ahead.
I do represent myself pro per. I would like that stated for the record. Like the record to reflect that, not pro se.
The record will so reflect your choice of term to describe your appearance today.
I've briefly read Illinois versus Allen. It didn't say it didn't give any reference at all to him being present by audio or visual in that case whatsoever. It just strictly talks about the reasons that he was removed and the options that the judge had in that. One of them being that he could be bound and gagged. One of them being that he can be held in contempt and removed from the courtroom while the trial would continue, but it did not say anything about being present visually or audio or by audio.
Well, I appreciate you reading the case, sir, and providing that information. I'm well aware of what the case says, and as that case says, the Supreme Court talked about there would be no one formula for maintaining the appropriate courtroom atmosphere, and no one formula will be best in all situations. But the Supreme Court said this: we think there are at least 3 constitutionally permissible ways for a trial judge to handle an obstreperous defendant like Allen, going through the 3 things that you identify. And my findings here are that there's a 4th way, and that's through the wonders of technology that weren't available in 1970 when that decision was authored. So I appreciate the notation on the record. You are here today, and I hope you stay here today. That's certainly my preference. You've demonstrated you're able to prepare, you're able to ask questions, you're able to articulate in a clear, coherent, cogent, and responsive way. And I'd like to bring the jury out, and that's what we're going to do next.
I'm interrupting real quick. I just want to say something very quick to that.
Very quick, sir.
I don't see that fourth way, Your Honor. Also, when he
Mr.
talked,
Brooks, my decision stands from previous. If you believe there's any error that I made, that is for you to address if there is a conviction and on appeal. But my decision stands.
May I
And the record speaks for itself.
may I put on record that I intend to appeal that judicial
may.
decision, Your Honor?
Understood. You may appeal as you deem appropriate. All right, thank you. Let's bring the jury out. I will ask everyone stand for the jury. For all of you, you can be seated when you come in. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Welcome back. Have a seat, and I'll make sure you all, looks like you all have your writing materials to take notes if you so choose.
Good morning, Ms. Patterson. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. Sorry.
All right. Can you tell us, do you know a man by the name of Darrell Brooks?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the court have Mr. Brooks temporarily remove his mask.
Mr. Brooks, you're advised to remove your mask, please. Thank you.
Ms. Patterson, do you see Darrell Brooks in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
On the left side, and he's wearing an orange shirt and a mask.
I'd ask the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
The record will reflect that this witness has identified the defendant.
Can you tell us how long you've known Darrell Brooks?
Since I was 15,
How old are you now?
32 today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
What's the nature of your relationship with Mr. Brooks?
We have a 15-year-old daughter together.
Okay. In what state did you meet Mr. Brooks?
Reno, Nevada.
And when did you come to Wisconsin?
Last year, 2021, June 13th,
Who did you come to Wisconsin with?
Darrell Brooks.
Did you come into contact with Darrell Brooks on the afternoon of November 21st, 2021?
Yes,
Where did you first come into contact with Mr. Brooks?
at Frame Park.
Were you hanging out with Corey Runkle earlier that day?
Yes, her and her friend Nick.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember where you were with those two?
Is at the Frame Park because we had split up when I met up with Darrell.
Okay. Do you remember what you were doing in Frame Park with Corey?
We were just hanging out.
Okay. Any alcohol involved?
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you
They had
remember?
like a Mike's Hard, the little Mike's Hard beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say that you were intoxicated after consuming one Mike's Hard beer?
No, I was not. When Darrell was on his way, Corey and Nick had left, so I sat there and waited for him. We were still arguing on the phone, but I waited for him.
And you were in Frame Park?
Yes.
Okay. How did Darrell arrive? That is, he didn't walk to Waukesha.
He drove in
Okay.
his mother's car.
When you were staying with Mr. Brooks' mother, were you staying in the house?
No,
Where were you staying?
we were outside. Sometimes we'd sleep in that car because his mom, he was not allowed to, be in the house. So, yes,
And you slept in that car with Mr. Brooks?
yes,
That's before November of 2021?
yes.
Okay. Describe for us what happened when Mr. Brooks first arrived in Frame Park, when you first saw him that day.
We were still arguing, pretty much. He was already in a bad mood when he met up with me anyways.
Did you get in the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, and what happened next?
We drove around and were arguing, and that's when we got into the altercation in the car, and that's when I jumped out. We were up the hill.
Do you remember exactly the route that the two of you took while you were driving around?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. She may answer.
Yes, I do. I'm not sure the exact street names. Like I said, I'm not from Waukesha, but I do know the route. He drove up farther more, and then that's when I jumped. It was on the up the hill. It was farther more, and then that's when he hit me, and I jumped out of his car. Well, his mother's car.
Where were you sitting when he hit you?
The passenger side front seat,
Where was he sitting?
driver's side,
What did he use to hit you?
his hand.
Was it an open hand, a closed fist?
Yes. What was it? Like this, sorry, like his open hand.
Okay.
But it was hard, because
So
it,
the record should reflect that the witness raised her right hand and
yes.
kind of waved it almost like a back slap?
No, harder than that.
Okay. What did you do after Mr. Brooks struck you?
I cried, and then I just jumped out of the car. And then going towards down the hill, that's when he was following me.
Describe how you were going down the hill.
Walking down the hill.
And how was he going down the hill?
Driving.
The red Ford Escape?
Yes.
Okay. What happened next?
He just followed me all the way to the park.
Okay.
He tried to take my phone from me at the light going down the hill, and he just kept following me and arguing with me out the window.
Do you recall being near a gas station while this argument was happening?
Yes.
Objection irrelevant.
Yes.
Hold on. Overruled, she may answer, and the answer she provided may stand.
Yes.
Does this video accurately show what happened in front of the White Rock School on November 21st of 2021?
Yes.
I move Exhibit 4 into evidence and request permission to publish.
Any objection?
Yes, we haven't even played the video. How do we know what's even in the video at this point? Can we see the video before it is admitted into evidence?
Your objection is noted. The foundation has been laid. Exhibit 4 is received.
We saw a red SUV, right?
Yes.
Who was driving that SUV?
Darrell Brooks?
Was there anybody else in the vehicle at that point, to your knowledge?
Nope.
Okay. Who got into the driver's seat at the end of that video?
Darrell Brooks?
And again, anybody in the vehicle at that point,
No.
other than him?
No.
Can we please pull up for the witness only? Exhibit 5.
Objection. Why is that for the witness? Oh, sorry.
You recognize this photograph? Ms.
Yes.
Patterson?
Yes.
And I believe actually Exhibit 5 has already been received and published, so I'd ask to do that again, to publish again.
Permission granted.
I object. Wasn't it supposed to be for the witness only?
The exhibit's previously been received, and the state requested permission to publish it once again, and I granted that request.
Ms. Patterson, who's that in the picture?
That's me.
And that photograph was taken
The day of the parade?
November 21st,
Yes.
the night.
Yes.
Okay. And what injuries do we see in that video, in that photograph?
That is my left eye that was swollen.
Your left eye would have been the eye closest to the defendant,
Yeah.
based on your description of where you and the defendant were sitting in the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you sustain that injury?
From him, Mr. Brooks, when he hit me.
Ms. Patterson, did you consent in any way to being struck in the face?
No.
That's all I have for this witness.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brooks, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yes, I do. First of all, good morning
Good morning.
and happy birthday.
Thank you.
You stated that you were hanging out with your friend Miss Corey on the day of this incident, correct?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that you were hanging out drinking?
Yes.
Would it also be fair to say that you occasionally drink too much?
Objection, Ms. Relevance.
Sustained.
Would it be fair to say that, well, let me back up. What were you drinking?
A Mike's Hard beverage.
Were you aware that it was said that you were actually drinking vodka?
No.
Objection.
Sustained, that mischaracterizes the previous testimony. Next question.
So it would be fair to say that you were drinking.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that you were a little intoxicated?
I was not.
How much did you drink that day?
1 of the Mike's Hard alcohol beverage.
And around what time of the day was that?
I don't remember.
Was it shortly before meeting up with the alleged defendant, or was it sometime before?
It was before.
Did you have anything to drink after?
No, I did not.
Did you at any time ask the alleged defendant to meet up with you?
Well, I told Mr. Brooks where I was.
Did you at any time ask to meet up with the alleged defendant?
No, I did not.
So it would be fair to say that the alleged defendant just came where you were?
Yes, I told you where we were. And obviously, we were going to hang out. I never told Mr. Brooks to hang out with me. I told him where we were.
If there was an argumentative conversation prior to you meeting up with the alleged defendant, why would you tell the alleged defendant where you were?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
It would be fair to say that you were engaged in conversation with the alleged defendant before you even left the women's shelter?
Yes,
And those argumentative conversations continue into your hanging out.
yes,
Would it be fair to say that that's what led you to drink?
no,
Would it be fair to say you were drinking because that's what you wanted to do?
yes,
Is it true that one of the rules and requirements of being at the women's shelter is no drugs and no alcohol? Would that be fair to say?
yes. But when I was drinking, it was at Frame Park. I was not at the women's shelter.
Would it be fair to say that you knew you had to come back into the women's shelter at some point that day, that they have a curfew?
Yes, and I made it before curfew.
Let me back up a little bit. You did state that part of the rules and requirements for being in the women's shelter is no drugs and no alcohol, correct?
Yes, it was not in the women's shelter.
That's not what I'm asking. It's part of the requirement and rules of the women's shelter, no drugs, no alcohol.
Yes,
Will object, asked and answered twice.
Sustained. Next question, Mr. Brooks.
Is there any type of drug and alcohol testing at the women's shelter?
I don't know. No,
No, or you don't know?
I don't know.
Would it be fair to say that if it was found that you were engaging in drugs and alcohol, that you might have lost your place at the women's shelter?
I'll object. I don't see how this is relevant.
Sustained. Next question.
To your knowledge, did the alleged defendant know anything about the city of Waukesha?
Yes,
And what did the alleged defendant know about Waukesha?
he told me, Mr. Brooks told me that his first child's mother lives in Waukesha.
Do you know that to be a fact?
No, that's just what Mr. Brooks told me.
Are you aware that the alleged defendant in fact has no mother of any child that lives in the city of Waukesha?
Objection. If Mr. Brooks wants to testify, he should do so in a different stage of the trial.
Sustained. You don't need to answer that.
Yes, ma'am.
Would it be fair to say, assuming from what you just said, that you were with the alleged defendant for approximately around 30 minutes or so?
Yes,
And during that time, did you make any disparaging remarks or anything to entice the argument to escalate?
no,
So you didn't say anything at all during your 30 minutes with the alleged defendant?
no, because I was crying the whole time because Mr. Brooks was yelling at me, arguing with me.
So you said absolutely nothing at all?
I was crying the whole time.
Did you say anything?
No,
You said that during this, well, once you had got out of the vehicle, as you say, you stated that your friend Miss Corey pulled you away from the vehicle because it swerved.
Yes, it was in the video.
You do know that we just saw the video. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, but there's two angles of the video.
Well, we only saw one, so I'm referring to the
Yes,
video that we saw.
Corey pulled me out the way when Mr. Brooks made a U-turn, and you almost swerved into Miss Patterson, which is me.
Would it be fair to say that the video does not show that?
There's different angles, but the video does not show that, the video we watched.
So the video that we just watched, that the jury just saw, there is no swerving of the vehicle and you being pulled back. Would that be fair to
From
say?
that far angle, you can kind of see it. Yes.
Would that be fair to say? That
You
there's-
answered the question, Mr. Brooks. Next question.
Do you remember reporting in your statement that the last thing he said to me was FUB, erase my number? Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
Would it be fair to say that you reported that this was said?
I don't remember.
Do you remember giving a statement to that effect?
No.
Would it be fair to say that you gave a statement?
No, I don't remember. I gave a statement to the detectives at the Women's Center.
So
That's
would
what I
it be
remember.
fair? I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Are you done answering?
Yes.
All right, next question.
Would it be fair to say that your memory is kind of cloudy of that day because you were intoxicated?
No.
There's a lot of things in this statement that you don't seem to remember. Is that fair to say?
This,
Sustained. Next question.
Would it be fair to say that you reported two different incidents?
yes.
Do you remember the dates of those incidents that you
The
reported?
20th and the 21st.
Would it be fair to say that there was no incident on the 20th?
No.
Would it be fair to say that you were initially not truthful with law enforcement?
No.
Do you recall making a second statement the next day? Or the next morning, rather, which would have been the 22nd of November, 2021?
Yes, I did actually. Yes, I did.
Do you recall what you reported that day?
I told them about the 20th when I met with Mr. Brooks, and all we did was argue. And you hit me then too.
So you reported incidents for 2 days in a row.
Yes.
Do you recall at any time telling law enforcement that you were not truthful and wanted to be truthful at that point?
No.
So you never made a statement to your knowledge that you fabricated a reported abuse incident.
No.
One second here, I'm reading from that. To the best of your knowledge, do you remember talking with a detective? I don't want to butcher this name, Your Honor. I don't know how to pronounce it.
You can spell it if that's helpful.
A detective, R-E-N-D-T.
Detective Barrett? Is it a detective or an officer?
It says detective, Your Honor.
Okay, ask your question.
Do you remember speaking with that detective?
Yes.
I'm reading directly from the statement, Your Honor, if I may.
Ask your question.
Do you remember reporting to that detective saying you were not completely forthright with all of the information that you had given because you were afraid to get other people involved in your drama or your business?
I don't remember that.
And I'll object and move to strike based on the fact that I think I'm safe in saying that that is not from the report which the defendant is referring to.
The objection is sustained. I'll grant the motion to strike by the state of the question and any response that may have been elicited before.
Your Honor, quick question on that. I'm reading directly from the report.
Next question, Mr. Brooks.
Just 1 second, Your Honor.
Okay.
I apologize for that, Your Honor. Do you remember at any time speaking with Officer Guff?
Yes.
Do you remember what you reported on November the 21st?
That me and Mr. Brooks, I met with Mr. Brooks at Frame Park. Me and Mr. Brooks got into an altercation. You hit me. I jumped out of your car and I walked and met my friend Corey. You followed me. And then after that, Nick and Miss Corey, they called the police officers. And then you drove off.
Just 1 second, Your Honor. Do you recall reporting to Officer Guff that you were not completely forthright with the information that you reported?
I don't remember. And no, actually, no, I did not say that. I apologize.
So reading from what was reported to Officer Guff states that what I learned from Erika Patterson was that when I spoke to her on the previous evening with Officer Barrett, was that the pronunciation, Your Honor? I'm sorry.
I don't have it in front of me, I'm not sure.
She was not completely forthright with all of the information she had given. Would that be fair to say?
What was your question?
Do you recall in your reporting to Officer Guff that you were not forthright with the information that you gave?
No, I don't recall that.
Do you remember the date and time of the first incident that you allege?
I don't remember the time, but it was November 20th.
Do you remember what time of day that may have been?
I just said I don't remember.
Do you remember where you were at?
Frame Park.
So would it be fair to say that both alleged incidents that you are alleging happened at Frame Park?
The second incident on November 21st did not happen on Frame Park. We were driving around and he hit me.
What
The
I'm
first
asking
incident.
is where you were at when you met up.
Frame Park, yes.
On
That's
both,
not what you
on both
just
alleged
said.
occasions?
Yes. That's how Mr. Brooks knew where Frame Park is. He already knew Waukesha area in the first place.
Same park.
Yes.
Were you drinking that day?
No.
And how did you know how to get to Frame Park, as you call it?
I knew how to get to Frame Park 'cause I'd been there previous times before that with Miss Corey. I knew how to get there because Corey walked with me that day too. I just was not with her. She walked towards there with me.
And so then you separated?
Yes.
Did you separate from Miss Corey at any time during the 21st?
Yes, I did. She left with Nick and I was with Mr. Darrell Brooks.
Would it be fair to say you guys separated after hanging out and drinking?
Mr. Brooks, under 906.11, sub 1, sub C, you need to move on to a new topic. You've been over this multiple times. It's been asked, it's been answered, and now it's under my authority under 906.11, sub 1, sub C, you need to move on.
So to the best of your knowledge, well, let me back up. How did you communicate with the alleged defendant on November 20th of 2021?
Phone calls,
Strictly phone calls, texts?
both. Mostly phone calls.
Do you remember what was said in those texts and phone
Same
calls?
conversation we had on the 21st. He was mad because I wasn't giving him money from not bailing him out.
So why would you meet up with the alleged defendant that day?
Because I just wanted to. We have a 15-year-old together. I mean, I was always going to talk to you then.
Do you remember if there was any agreed upon meeting up that day?
Yes,
By you, by the alleged defendant?
both.
Do you remember the reason why you were meeting up?
I just said why.
So it would have been just to conversate,
Just to conversate.
would it be fair to say that you could have communicated strictly by the phone?
Yes.
Objection.
Under 906.11, sub 1, sub C, the objection is sustained.
So why didn't you file a report with law enforcement on November the 20th after you alleged that you were abused?
Because I've been dealing with it for so many years, I just didn't do it. I don't see what this has anything to do with this case.
How long have you known the alleged defendant again?
Since I was 15. I'm 32 now.
Would it be fair to say that you lived in different states from the alleged defendant?
Yes, but I
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought there was.
I was going to object and ask
For clarification on the timeline there.
I'll sustain the objection, rephrase the question.
I was going to get to that, Your Honor. Would it be fair to say that during the duration of the time knowing the alleged defendant that the majority of that time you did not live in the same area or state?
the whole 16 years, me and Mr. Brooks were not together, but it was off and on.
Did you guys live in the same area off and on during that time?
objection.
I-
Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Out of the 16 years you said it was, correct?
Yes, off and on, Mr. Brooks.
How much of that time did you actually spend with the alleged defendant?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained. Also under 906.11, sub 1, sub C. Move on.
1 second, Your Honor. I'm just going over something. Just 1 second, Your Honor. You were not drinking on both of those days that you cite, the 20th or the 21st.
The 20.
Brooks, hold on. Mr. Brooks, under 906.11, I'm stopping this cross-examination. You've asked the same question, multiple questions, multiple times, and at this point, I'm going to declare that
I didn't
the
know.
opportunity to cross is now concluded.
I didn't know that was the same question, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks, it's been asked and answered multiple times. Thank you. You may step
Thank
down.
you, Your Honor.
All right, and any reason to keep her under subpoena from the state?
No.
From the defense?
Yes.
Did you have a subpoena for her?
To my understanding, I was supposed to.
All right, I'll take that up in a little bit. For now, I'd ask that she be maintained under the state subpoena until I can clarify that issue. All right, state have the next witness available.
Yes, we do.
Were you working as a detective on November 22nd of 2021?
Yes, I was.
On that date, did you meet with a person by the name of Erika Patterson?
Yes, I did.
What was the purpose of meeting with Miss Patterson?
I wanted to clarify her statement to me regarding a domestic related incident that had occurred.
And as part of that clarification, did you get into a squad car with Miss Patterson?
I did.
And what was the point of doing that?
I wanted to ride in the car with her since she was unfamiliar with the geography of the city, and so that she could point out to me specific directions on where she went with Mr. Brooks. We traveled in this direction on Baxter.
Okay. And then what?
As we continued down Baxter, we got to this street called Buckley, and then from Buckley, we made a right turn and ended up on Carina. And then on Carina, we made a left turn, traveling along the river till we reached Barstow. And then from Barstow, we made a right turn, traveling up northwest Barstow, all the way to the Barstow Hill, where it's highlighted in green there, up the Barstow Hill, and it's going to come off the map, but all the way up to Bidwell.
Did she indicate where she went with Mr. Brooks after that?
Well, she jumped out of the car at Bidwell in northwest Barstow.
Officer Guff or detective?
Detective.
Sorry about that. Good morning, Detective Guff.
Good morning.
You've been in law enforcement for over 20 years. Would that be fair to say?
Correct.
At any time during your over 20 years of service, have you ever had any interaction with the plaintiff in this matter?
Objection.
Sustained.
Can you state for the record if the plaintiff is in court today?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you ever seen the plaintiff?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you even know of the plaintiff?
Objection.
Sustained.
Ever spoken to the plaintiff?
Objection.
On what grounds?
Sustained.
On what grounds?
It's sustained. Next question.
May I ask what grounds, Your Honor?
Mr. Brooks, do you have another question?
I do. I was just trying to follow the rules that you said by saying that an objection has to have a basis. So
Unless it's self-evident to the court. It's sustained. Next question.
On what grounds, Your Honor?
Do you have another question? Otherwise, under 906.11, I will give the state an opportunity to ask any redirect.
Yes, I do have more questions.
Go ahead.
At any time did Erika Patterson report any domestic incident to you?
Yes.
Do you remember the dates that she reported, or date?
Yes.
At any time during that report, did you find her to be untruthful?
No.
I'm reading from the narrative of your report, and specifically the part where it says, what I learned from Erika Patterson was that when I spoke to her on the previous evening with Detective Barrett, she was not completely forthright with all of the information she had given. Would that be fair to say?
Correct.
So would it also be fair to say that from the report that you wrote, that you're acknowledging that there was some untruth in the report reported to you?
No, that's incorrect.
When I spoke to her on the previous evening with Detective Barrett, she was not completely forthright. You said what you learned was that she was not completely forthright. So is it fair to say that there was some untruth to the report?
No.
So why would that be in the report?
For various reasons. The most common reason is that when domestic victims report crimes that happen to them, a lot of times they're very afraid of their abuser, and so they don't always give all details, because if they do give all details about what happened to them, they feel like they might have something happen to them in a future date from that same abuser.
So would it be fair to say that you could have just stated what you just said in your report?
I did state that.
Not in the report. Is it fair to say that obviously you've been in law enforcement for a very long time?
Is that a question?
Would it be fair to say that it could have been reported in the way that you just stated, instead of stating in your report that there was untruthfulness?
I didn't state untruthfulness in my report. If you further read into the report, I state what I just stated.
To the best of your knowledge, would it be fair to say that there was in fact only one incident?
No.
And would you be basing that, to the best of your knowledge, would you be basing that answer, the last answer, on hearsay?
No.
So you would be basing your answer on eyewitness account?
I'll check that. Relevance.
Grounds.
I'm going to sustain the objection. Next question, or you can rephrase it.
I don't know how I can rephrase that without asking it the same way, Your Honor. Did she state where she may have been on November 20th of 2021?
Yes.
Do you recall what that was? What she said?
I recall what she said, yes.
Do you believe that she was being truthful?
Yes.
To the best of your knowledge, do you recall any injuries on the first reported incident?
Yes.
Do you recall what they were?
Yes.
And do you recall any injury on the reported incident from the day of the parade?
Yes.
Do you remember what they were?
Yes.
Can you state on the record what they were?
On which day?
The 20th.
Her mouth was injured due to being slapped in the mouth.
Can you recall for any reason why that would not be in the report?
It is.
To the best of your knowledge, can you say where in the report that would be? Because I don't see it in the report that I have here before me.
Are you asking me which report states that she was injured in the mouth? Are you asking if it was reported to me that she was injured in the mouth?
No, I'm not. I'm asking you, why is there no injuries reported for that incident, alleged incident?
It was reported to me that she was injured in the mouth by being slapped on the 20th.
Are you aware that that was not testified to?
No.
Objection.
Hold on.
Hearsay.
What grounds would that be hearsay?
Mr.
Your Honor?
Brooks, it's up for the jury to determine the truthfulness of anything that's said or testified to in court.
Okay.
He was not present for any other testimony, so it would not be proper for him to comment on that.
Would it be fair to say that the reported alleged incident from the 20th is very, very vague in your report? Would that be fair to say? And by vague, I mean there's literally 3 sentences.
I don't have the report in front of me. If you're
I have it in
referring
front
to
of me.
vagueness, that's why I went back on the 22nd to interview her again to clarify information.
You also say in your report that you had learned that there were 2 other individuals that may have been involved in the incident. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Do you remember the names of the 2 individuals?
Yes.
Would you state on the record what the names of the other 2 individuals were?
Corey Runkle, and the other individual's first name is Nick. I don't remember his last name.
Do you recall if you had learned of any information about what Corey Runkle might have said to any other law enforcement?
Yes.
Do you recall what that was?
Yes.
Would you like to state on the record what that was that you may have learned?
I learned that she was with Erika Patterson on the 21st, on November 21st, 2021, when Erika Patterson was involved with a domestic incident. She responded to help her friend.
Did what Ms. Patterson said change from interview to interview?
No.
So at any time during your interview, did you learn less or learn more?
I learned more in my second interview.
So it would be fair to say that the information you learned changed. Would that be fair to say?
Objection. Argumentative.
Overruled, he may answer.
It did not change. I just learned more information.
Did you view the video footage from White Rock School?
Yes.
Do you remember what you saw in those videos?
Yes.
You state on the record what you saw?
Under 906.11, I'm gonna advise the witness not to answer. That video is in evidence. It will speak for itself. And his understanding of what's in there, at least at this point, is not relevant.
Can you say what was the date of the video that you saw?
November 21st, 2021.
Did you see any video from the other alleged incident from November 20th?
I'll object. I don't see the relevance to anything that happened on the 20th.
Sustained.
Do you know if there might have been any video from the alleged incident on November 20th?
Same objection.
Sustained.
Grounds.
It's not relevant.
May I ask how is it not
Next
relevant?
question. There's not a charge related to the 20th, sir. It's not relevant. I've given you leeway to ask questions at this point under 906.11. Move on.
Just so I'm clear, you have never had any interaction with the plaintiff.
Objection.
Sustained.
You've never seen the plaintiff.
Objection.
Sustained.
Never spoken to the plaintiff.
Objection.
Sustained.
Never seen, do you see the plaintiff in court today?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know if there is a plaintiff in this matter?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you had any prior knowledge of the plaintiff in this matter?
Objection.
Sustained.
Would it be fair to say that you do not know of any plaintiff in this matter?
Objection.
Sustained.
On grounds? What grounds?
Under 906.11, I'm declaring the cross-examination now closed. Do you have any redirect for this witness?
Briefly, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Detective, when you reported that Erika Patterson had been less than completely forthright with you, what did she leave out the first time you spoke with her?
She left out the incident that happened to her on November 21st, 2021.
The incident where she accused Mr. Brooks of punching her?
Correct.
Okay. You testified on cross-examination that in your general experience, victims of domestic violence do not report 100% of the details all the time.
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled.
Grounds.
He hasn't asked a question yet.
Grounds for the.
He can ask his question. This witness testified about his experience based on a question you asked, so the redirect is appropriate.
I'll just say that every situation is different, Your Honor. Which we
You're
do know
attempting to
that.
testify, so no, you may not say that. The jury will strike that comment made by Mr. Brooks.
Did Erika Patterson provide to you a specific reason for her situation, why she was not 100% forthright with you?
Yes.
What was that reason?
She was extremely afraid of Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Detective, you may step down. Any reason to keep this witness under subpoena from the state?
Not from the state.
Anything from Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
All right, I'll take that up later and reserve that until I can review that with the parties. All right, this would be an excellent opportunity to take a mid-morning break. It's 10:49, about 15 minutes. All rise for the jury. We are in recess.